The movie begins with Young-soo waiting at a patrol station to get some gasoline for his car, but the old staff of the station can't hear properly, so the old man fills up the tank full, causing Young-soo to need to pay more cash, for which the owner of the station apologizes to Young-soo, and the old man brings 2 bottles of water and gives it to Young-soo before he leaves. After leaving the gas station, Young-soo calls his wife Se-hyun and discusses what to get his 6-year-old daughter for her birthday. His daughter wants a pet as a gift, but Young-soo does not like pets, so he considered giving something else as a present instead. Young-soo is a car dealer who receives a call from a client while talking to his wife and enters a tunnel while conversing with the client. As he enters the tunnel, he hears a noise from the ceiling, and as he turns to look behind him, the tunnel begins to collapse. When Lee Young-soo regains consciousness, he discovers that he is trapped inside his car, which is buried beneath tons of concrete and debris. However, just as he awakens, the after effects of the tunnel collapse occur, but because Young-soo is trapped inside the car, he is safe. He only has his cell phone, 2 bottles of water, and his daughter's birthday cake in the car. He calms down and dials 911, reporting everything that happened at the time, but the police respond laxly, saying they will be there in 5 minutes. When the rest of her team arrives, they are taken aback by the sight of the tunnel collapse, and the case is covered in the media. The entire mountain has collapsed, and the entire transmission network has been severely damaged. Young-soo's wife only watched the news when it was reported that he was trapped in the tunnel. On the other hand, some members of the media were attempting to contact Young-soo, and one reporter was connected to Young-soo and began live broadcasting the phone call. When the reporter asks Young-soo if he has food and water, Young-soo responds, "How long do I have to stay stuck in here?" Young-soo thought he'd be able to leave in a few hours, but that wasn't the case. Looking at the situation, it appeared that getting out would take several weeks. Knowing this, Young is taken aback. At the same time, the head of the rescue team, Dae-kyung, goes to the van where the broadcast was taking place and threatens them to stop the broadcast because Young-soo's battery could die at any time due to their unnecessary phone calls, which could affect the survivor's mental state, Young-soo. They only have one way to contact the survivor, Young-soo, right now, and that is through his phone. Dae-kyung returns to his tent after stopping the broadcast and receives a call from Young-soo. Dae-kyung asks Young-soo to be calm and assures him that he will get Young-soo out of there soon, so that he will have to manage his water for at least 7 days. And Young-soo had his daughter's birthday cake, which he can live off of, and Dae-kyung says he will talk to him every day at 12 noon. Apart from that, Young-soo has to keep his phone turned off, and it was only 75% charged right now. Dae-kyung inquires of Young-soo how far he has progressed in the tunnel, to which he responds that he has crossed 2 ceiling fans, one of which has fallen directly in front of him. Dae-kyung makes a broad mark on the blueprint to determine Young-soo's location. Young-soo receives a phone call from his wife, Se-hyun, who is crying as she tells him that she is leaving their daughter with her mother, and that she has not told her about the situation with Young-soo. Young-soo tells Se-hyun to look after herself and promises his daughter that he will see her soon, before falling asleep in the back seat of the car. Dae-kyung, on the other hand, presents his rescue plan to the city minister and requests that the construction of another tunnel being built in this city, which was very close to this channel, be halted because the final blast had to be done to make it, which could have had an effect on the collapsed tunnel and put Young-soo's life in danger. And the minister grants her permission to Dae-kyung. The next day, they sent a drone in to inspect the damage, but all of the drones stopped after a short distance in the tunnel. The reason for this was that the tunnel was constructed with iron ore, which was obstructing the radio web. That is why Dae-kyung and their partner decide to go inside themselves. After going inside, Dae-kyung checks the debris and his partner presses the horn of the car, and Young-soo is able to hear the sound of the horn, which means they were not too far away from each other, but at that moment, the remaining part of the tunnel began to collapse, and Dae-kyung and his partner managed to get out safely and leave at that time. Then Se-hyun appears, followed by the minister, who had been explaining the rescue plan in front of all the media reporters. When Se-hyun requests that the minister save her husband, the minister and all the other officers begin posing for photos with her, as if she were a celebrity. 3 days have passed since Young-soo was trapped in the tunnel, and he discovers some items in the trunk of his car such as a torch, t-shirt, car cleaner, and so on. He then notices a dog in the tunnel, indicating that someone else was trapped here. And it was a girl named Mina who couldn't move at all, so Young-soo broke the fan to help her, and went to her car, where he tried to remove a rock that was preventing Mina from moving but couldn't. Mina introduces her dog, Tenji, and requests some water from Young-soo. We all know how important water is to Young-soo, but he still gives her water in order to help Mina. Mina then asks for a call from Yoon-soo's phone because hers was broken in an accident. Mina calls her mother and informs her that she will return home soon. These two conversed, and Mina desired to rest for a while. That is why Yoon-soo returns to his car and falls asleep. When Yoon-soo wakes up, he notices that Tenji has eaten all of the cakes, which makes him angry, but he controls himself. Se-hyun, on the other hand, was present on the site, in the hope that she will soon be able to meet Yoon-soo. Mina called Yoon-soo because her condition was deteriorating rapidly. She is unable to breathe. And Yoon-soo brings her some water, but Mina is already dead when he returns. When Yoon-soo sees this, he becomes terrified and begins crying, and he calls Dae-kyung. He had also run out of water. Dae-kyung then asks him to drink his own urine in order to survive, as we have seen in many survival shows, and Yoon-soo had no choice but to do so. Outside the tunnel, the rescue team was working day and night to drill a tunnel from both sides. The first was from above to where Dae-kyung marked Yoon-soo's location, and the second was from the tunnel's entrance. After 9 days, Yoon-soo was spending time with Tenji when he took out Tenji's collar and jokingly placed it around his neck. As a result, he is shocked, and as a result of the shock, debris falls from one side of his car, creating some space. Yoon-soo gets out of his car and stands on his own after 9 days. He then begins looking for things to help but only finds a small path between some debris. Kyung-dae calls Yoon-soo and informs him that he has begun drilling the tunnel from above, and that it will take 10 days to reach ground. Yoon-soo had to stay here for another 10 days. That's when he notices a drop of water among the rocks and fills it in his bottle. Today, Yoon-soo drank water for the first time in many days. After a few more days, the officers have started getting the blocks in the drilling, and they tell the team and Se-hyun that they will arrive at Yoon-soo the next day, which makes everyone happy. Finally, the day of rescue has arrived, and it has been 17 days since Yoon-soo was trapped. During the drilling process, they were getting parts of ceiling fans, indicating that they were close to the ground, but when Dae-kyung called Yoon-soo to see if he saw the drill machine, Yoon-soo did not see anything. It indicated that something was wrong. Then Dae-kyung double-checks the blueprints, and an officer shows everyone a video taken during the tunnel's inauguration in which only 6 fans can be seen, despite the fact that there were 7 fans in the blueprint. This meant that the blueprint was incorrect, and that these people had drilled it in the wrong place. That is, 17 days of hard work and Yoon-soo's struggle were then squandered. When Dae-kyung called Yoon-soo to inform him of the news, Yoon-soo felt as if everything had come to an end. Then Se-hyun speaks to him and tells him to be brave, but the man's hopes were dashed, and he had accepted his death. But Se-hyun tells him that if he gave up on himself, she and her daughter would perish with him, and Yoon-soo is willing to fight for his life once more for the sake of his family, and the rescue team now begins drilling the entrance. Now, 23 days have passed, and the rescue work has slowed due to snowfall in the city, while on the other side, there was a construction company that wanted to begin work on the second tunnel because both the government and the company have suffered significant losses as a result of the work stoppage. However, while this meeting is taking place, a man dies at the site of the rescue, and word of this spreads through the media, and Yoon-soo, who is trapped in the tunnel, attempts to escape via the same small road he discovered between the rocks. The person who died on the spot, his mother visits the site and begins venting on Se-hyun, claiming that her son died as a result of her and Yoon-soo. Because Yoon-soo's phone was also dead, everyone assumed he was dead. The authority pays a visit and asks Se-hyun to sign the papers granting permission to begin construction of Tunnel 2, after which they must perform the final blast and halt the rescue mission in order to save Yoon-soo from the tunnel. After this, Yoon-soo will never be able to emerge from the tunnel, and Se-hyun destroys the last hope of meeting Yoon-soo by signing the paper. Because she didn't want anyone else to perish as a result of him. Se-hyun attempts to inform Yoon-soo by going to the radio station, in the hope that if he is still alive, he will realize that no one will come to save him, and will apologize to him. Yoon-soo was listening to all of this on his car radio, and he was desperately trying to spread the word that he was still alive. But in a panic, he tries to get himself out of the tunnel. Dae-kyung wasn't going to give up so easily, so he goes underground with a drill machine and tries to listen to the inner frequency with a microphone. On the other side, Yoon-soo was attempting to escape in the same manner, but a rescue team member intervened and dragged Dae-kyung up. However, the microphone breaks and falls on the tunnel. Yoon-soo returns to his car and begins pressing the car's horn loudly in an attempt to save his life. Then Dae-kyung hears the microphone on the radio above, and they all know Yoon-soo is alive, which is why the blasts stop. After confirming Young-soo's survival, the rescue operation is restarted, and after 35 days of drilling the front of the tunnel, Tanji and Young-soo are rescued in the same manner, setting a world record. Where a person was stranded for 35 days without food or water. By the time Young-soo is brought out, Se-hyun is crying and hugging him, but the government arrives and stops Dae-kyung from taking him to the hospital because they wanted Young-soo to go to the hospital with the minister. When the minister approaches Young-soo, he says something in Dae-kyung's ear, and when the reporter inquires, Dae-kyung shouts loudly and abuses all of them, and Young-soo gives him a thumbs up on the way to the hospital. He was now safe, and after a month, he is discharged from hospital, and the film ends. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed my work, please like and subscribe.